Hello, hello, hello. We are back. I am Joyce Chesley Hayward, and this is Cheryl Parks, and we are just talking about a few things, business, and how it ties to life as well. And so this is you and I, but you and I, all of us, but also you for this is unscripted and I, but intentional. So, Cheryl, let's kick it off with what we're going to talk about today in this episode.
Yeah, so I'm loving all of these conversations, and we hope you are too. We're going to talk about what's different now versus then. So we both have been in our careers, genres, etc., for I would say at least a couple decades, right? Each.
Definitely.
Okay, so together, almost a half a century. I'm just saying. Okay. At the end of the day, that affords us insight to a lot of changes that have happened in the market, in business, in the services we provide, in the approach, in on and on and on. So we're gonna each come up with, it'll be one main one, but then we'll have some conversation around it. So I'm gonna toss it back to you, Joyce. What do you think is different now versus then as it relates to your business and carries over into your life?
I would say the computer age for sure. When I started, it was green eye shade accountants, as they said, and ledger, long ledger. I remember having to buy 14 and 21 column paper, and everything was written out in pencil. And it was just an interesting, different time. And even in our lives, the computer has really changed the pace of things. People expect things a lot more quickly, and so in the accounting space, a lot of, QuickBooks is there and these and Zero, all these different programs that people can do themselves. And so for some people, it's, well, I can do it myself. Why do I need you? And I find quite often it's people, though, don't have the time. They think they're going to get home after they've worked all day and do their books, and they don't. Or they do them and they make a shambles of them, and then they have to call us in to fix it. But I think the real thing that I have found is different is that persons need what I have in my head. They it's almost like the coaching that I think when we were talking off camera that I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt in a lot of respects, especially being in this 20 plus years more than, and I've seen some things. And so I can head it off at the pass, so to speak, that certain things when people tell me they have a vision, they have an idea, I've seen other people do it or try to do it, or I know what they may encounter along the way and can give them that added value. So it's not just about the numbers. As I said in one of our episodes, it's about the people behind the numbers. What are they really trying to achieve? And so for me, one of the differences before is I used to do people's books. I used to help them with their numbers. I used to provide them with reports and I gave them good information. But now, what do they do with that information? How do they really use that information to help them get to the next, to help them to move to the next thing, and to help them know that their personal lives, for most of the businesses I deal with, their business is their life. A lot of people have put their life savings into their business, their families involved in their business. If their business fails, it's impacting their life. And so I want to make sure that what they do in their business is the right thing for them and their family. So I think that's when I think about how life is different, how things are different before and after, I've had to be flexible. I've had to look at change. I've had to say, hey, what if this doesn't go that way? Then what? And not take ourselves so seriously sometimes.
Yeah, it's the truth. I mean, it really is. The flexibility is so key. I
Yeah.
do love the idea that you have your radar, right? I mean, so when you're in a space, in any space for 20 plus years, even if you're just in business and you've gone a bunch of different directions, you have there's just a there's insight that's created by being there, right? That I've sold through the tragedy of 9/11. I've in 2001. I've sold through the downturn of 2008, the bump in I want to say 2012. We've all been through the pandemic, right? I mean, literally. So I understand the cycle of the difficulty that comes in a sales scenario when tragedy hits or an unexpected event hits. And it's not how do you get around it. You don't. You go through it. But I can tell you, when tragedy hits, candidly, that's when most people pull back and get super conservative. That's the moment you want to step into your support. You want to step in
Wow.
and say, how can I help? What can I do? It
Yeah.
looks different. What you're doing looks different. So where can I jump in? So I loved everything that you just said. I will say, so I almost went down the rabbit hole with you and was like, oh yeah, it's all different. And I'm like, no, you're supposed to give the one about the sales part. Okay. So in the sales landscape, one thing that I know to be different is the buyer's decision-making journey. So back in the day,
Back in the
it
day.
used to be that the salesperson held all the information, right? So if a buyer, corporate buyer, even a consumer wanted information, they had to contact a salesperson. Salesperson would show up on time, prepared, and demonstrate and or show them what the information was that they needed, and then help them make a decision. Today, this shows up first.
Uh-huh.
This shows up first, and or your laptop, and you validate as a consumer or a business buyer, corporate buyer. You're validating the problem. You're validating, is this costing us money? Is this inhibiting revenue? Is it like you're literally going to validate your own problem, very likely. You're going, if you're a corporate buyer, you might gather a small team to say, let's explore this further. And you're going to look around to see what your options are to solve it, right? Before you even engage a sales-focused leader, you likely have done a lot of your own footwork. And then you might reach out, whether it be, because you've got a great website set up and it's got inquiry and they drop something there, or someone refers them. There's lots of different ways, conversations happen. But at the end of the day, about 70% of the decision is already made before they have a conversation with a sales-focused leader, a business owner, a founder, a salesperson. And so that's something we have to incorporate. And I'm going to give one huge tip. This is my favorite question. It is a new school question, but one of the questions we should always be asking is, what has surprised you about the research you've already done? And the reason for that is it will let you know that they've actually already done research. Oh, we narrowed it down to 2. You're one of 2. Or they'll say, we haven't done any research. You're the first one here. So-and-so referred us and we thought we'd have a conversation with you, or I thought I'd have a conversation. That lets you know what your competitive landscape is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It all of a sudden you're like, oh, they're just starting this journey. It could take a little while, or maybe it won't take any time. Maybe what you say makes sense to them and they just go. So it just kind of sets the tone and the landscape for where you are in the conversation. And when you don't ask that, we make assumptions that they're at the beginning when in fact they're at the end. So.
That's a gem. That is a huge gem. And I guess it just makes me wonder. So when people have done research, do you find that they do the right research? Are they really, like, sometimes people, like, I think about people who are their own doctors, they're doctors off the internet, and it's like, you really should have talked to a real doctor, because they've been to school for 4 to 10, 8 years for that knowledge. And so what do you how are you finding that people are so much using this, but is it the right stuff?
Okay, so I have to add a caveat. It depends on what you're looking for, right? If you're looking for car insurance, there's a good chance you could narrow it down and then talk to the person at Acme Car Insurance and say, can you add a little extra, adjustment to it, and they do it and you're done. If you're looking for healthcare, there probably has to be a semblance of who you are. How much meds do you take? What your existing conditions are, right? So and that becomes important, because down the road, your investments in that are key, right? Are you investing on the front end or the back end, right? So it really depends. And then when we get into corporate buying, or the space of a business owner buying, then it becomes, okay, so there isn't a structure, right? And there's not a class on it. So it becomes what becomes sticky in the Google search, right? Or the Bing search, or whatever you're using. And I would say more times than not, they're researching the right things.
Okay.
Right? I want to say more time, like more times than not, 6.5 to 7 out of 10.
Okay.
They're researching the right things, because Google's not Google for no reason, right?
True.
Yeah,
Very
it's
true.
gonna bring up, who's researched what. Have you ever
Yeah.
typed a question in and you're like, oh, somebody's already asked this a million times, right?
Gotcha.
So, but there are caveats, and to your point, there are going to be things that aren't considered in AI, in Google searching, etc.
Yeah.
And you pointed something out, and I literally had a visual, so I'm gonna include it here. The decades of experience can show someone that there's a left turn coming ahead.
Yes.
Google is likely not going to tell you that. And they're not
Right.
going to tell
Good
you
point. Good
that's a dead end into the bay. I live out here in California. And you would need to make a left a mile before you think you're going to be at your destination and go around, right? How many
Yes.
times are we driving
Wow.
our car somewhere and there's one-way streets, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize I have to go around it,
Found
right?
that. Yes.
That's what the
Yes.
experience of working with professionals bring. And
Yes.
that's what the coaching piece of it is. It's like, I can
Yes.
tell you where the detours are, and I can also get you to your destination faster and more comfortably, right?
Yes.
So that you're
Yes.
not like trudging up this hill, like get to the top and you're like, now I
Yeah.
gotta go
Yeah.
down, right? Yeah. So that's my opinion on if they're researching the right things. I do think,
Good point.
yeah, because the decision making's already in process,
Yeah.
chances are
Yeah.
they're going the right direction, but they could use that additional insight to get them there.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's so important to make sure they know that sometimes, because I think
Yes.
that's the value add, and sometimes people don't. I think some people don't think about the value
Yep.
that they're getting because they have shortcut. What would it have
Yeah.
cost you to make that mistake?
Right.
So,
And the
yeah,
time and energy invested, right? We only have so much bandwidth. So as
exactly.
a business owner, as a founder, CEO, whatever your title is, whatever your role is in the company, like if you're doing A and it takes you twice as long, that means you weren't doing B, C, and D. And that
Exactly.
opportunity
Exactly.
cost, right? You're not spending time with your employees and building your team
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
looking at the next year's numbers. I'm not going to throw out what year this is, because you never know. This may live into infinity.
True. True.
So
Very
yeah,
true.
yeah. So you don't
Didn't go away.
yeah, you don't know the opportunity cost because you're doing it on your own. So yes, I think there is a tipping point where people should engage a professional, someone that has experience. Even that process, you should have a sense of what
Yeah.
you're looking for and come to the table with good questions and take a look and see what their experience has been actually getting outcomes. Not so much just the training of it, but
Yeah.
literally getting people to outcomes. That's the key.
That's the key.
Just
That's
my
the key.
opinion. I'm off my soapbox.
No, that's great. That's a good soapbox. Well, we
Yeah.
are going to have more boxes to stand on as we
Right.
go through more episodes, more sessions of this. So this has
Yeah.
been juicy, 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 as they say. So thank you, Cheryl. I love this you and I. This is just
Yes.
wonderful. So I am Joyce Chesley Hayward. I am Fusion for Business is my company. I'm a profit maximizer. I believe in business owners having profit in their business. As a CFO, external CFO and accountant, I believe in profit in your business, but also profit in your life. So that's why I wrote a book called Profit Freedom, because I believe you have to love your business and love your life, because that is profit freedom.
Absolutely. I'm Cheryl Parks. I'm known around the internet streets as the sales growth coach. I am an accelerator sales coaching consultant. What that means is I come in and help founders, CEOs, sales teams actually collapse timelines to get to their accelerated sales outcomes. And to do so, it will also elevate your life and empower you to show up as the best version of yourself.
Awesome sauce. We will be back with another episode coming soon to you.
All right. Bye, y'all.